What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the stream. So we got some breaking news here, finally, on a Thursday afternoon. It's funny because I had just got done editing this huge 22-minute long video where I broke down not only the Schefter report from yesterday and all the possibilities of what he could have been talking about, but also just the latest offensive coordinator news. I was about to get that uploaded. And then I get the alert on my phone from ESPN, Adam Schefter. The Eagles have officially hired the new offensive coordinator. And obviously I'm looking at the chat here. Everyone kind of seems to be pretty split on this hire. In my opinion, and I'm going to dive into it, but just to give you guys like my initial reaction, I think based on who was left out there, this was probably one of the best hires that the Eagles could have made. And shout out to Matthew for the $10. I really, really appreciate that. He says, be honest, Evan, how cooked are we? I don't think I can definitively say whether or not this hire is going to work out because there is definitely a big risk to it. But also, like I said, I think this is probably one of the best hires we could have made. So let's dive into it. I do want to thank you guys for being here on short notice. 123 people in the chat. Make sure you guys hit the like on the stream. But let's pull up the official report from Adam Schefter. Here we go. So, as you can see, he says, sources, the Eagles are hiring Packers quarterback coach Sean Mannion as their offensive coordinator. Mannion interviewed twice for the Eagles offensive coordinator job and now will be moving on from Green Bay. So, yeah, I mean, I talked about this in my stream yesterday. I talked about this in the video that I was going to put out today. But when it was first reported that they had interviewed Sean Mannion, I was like, what are we doing? I was pretty pessimistic about it because this is a guy who he only has 2 years of coaching experience in general in the NFL. He's got 1 year, I think, as the Packers quarterback coach. I don't think he was the quarterback coach for both the years that he was there. And, yes, Jordan Love had a good season last year. Malik Willis he made some improvements last year as well under Sean Mannion, but nothing on his resume really stood out or jumped off the page to me. And again, he doesn't have play calling experience. He doesn't have much coaching experience in general. But what he does have is experience under a ton of the best offensive minds in the NFL. And I'm going to pull that up right now because I did talk about this yesterday, but I want to bring it up again now just to get you guys that are a little down on this hire a little more excited about it. Hold on. Give me a second. I got to scroll down to find it. So here we go. So there's this tweet from Anthony DeBona that he put out a couple days ago. It says, well, the Packers quarterbacks coach Sean Mannion only has 2 seasons of coaching experience. He played for some notable offensive coaches throughout his playing career. Now, again, he was an NFL quarterback for a while. So he played under Sean McVay, Kevin Stefanski, Clint Kubiak, Dave Canales, and Drew Petzing, whatever. But Dave Canales, Kevin O'Connell, Grant Udinski, and then obviously the past 2 seasons, he spent time under Matt LaFleur with the Packers. So that's a positive sign. He's definitely been able to learn from all those guys, just develop his football IQ, gets that experience. I think that's all very valuable. And I think the buzz around Sean Mannion these past couple days has all been overwhelmingly positive. Because like Anthony DeBona pointed out, and I'll put this tweet up on the screen as well, everyone is very, very high on him in Green Bay, whether it's the fans, whether it's the media. Again, like I said, everything about him has been very positive. Now, the one big risk is that he has not called plays before and he doesn't have much experience. But there's also a lot of potential upside because people seem to think that he's going to be a really great coach one day, maybe even a head coach at some point later down the line. But again, he's very early in his coaching journey. So there's also a chance that he could last here for a couple seasons, which I think maybe is part of the reason we hired him. But here, Anthony DeBona says this. He says, the reaction of opposing fans and media members is always a good way to measure the potential loss of a player or coach. It seems like Packers fans don't want to see Sean Mannion leave, and media members aren't surprised by his meteoric rise. So again, there's another positive sign. Um, and then I do want to pull up this because DeBona just tweeted this out, I think, right before he got hired. Says he reached out to who's this? Um, he's a source regarding Packers quarterback Sean Mannion. Who is this? I want to see who this is first because I literally just saw this as I was getting on here. Is he a Packers reporter? Seems like he's a Packers reporter or content creator, so he's got some knowledge more than likely. And if Anthony DeBona is quoting him, then I would trust his judgment. He says Eagles fans might enjoy what he had to say about Mannion, which is, quote, he's a fast riser. The story behind him is that Matt LaFleur coached Mannion with the Rams. After the 2023 season, the Bears wanted to interview Mannion for a coaching job, so Mannion set up a call with LaFleur and asked if he could hear his pitch to prepare him for the interview. LaFleur was so impressed with his presentation that he basically hijacked him. Mannion interviewed with the Bears, then came to Green Bay, and LaFleur hired him on the spot. I think most Packer fans would prefer Mannion as offensive coordinator over Adam Stenovich for whatever that's worth. I don't know, guys. Like, I understand the concerns with the lack of play calling experience. I very much understand that because at the start of this search, my main thing was I wanted to get a guy that had experience, right? But at this point in the search, you're what, 2.5 weeks deep? There's only so many candidates left. All the top guys that had experience were gone. So you got to take some sort of a risk, whether it's hiring a guy that has experience, but also his track record isn't the best. And today, for example, one of the guys that I was going to talk about in my video, that they had multiple interviews with was former Bucs offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard, and he had 1 year of play calling experience last season. And the Bucs offense last year, I think, was 21st in yards. They were 20th in passing. They were 21st in rushing, and they were 18th in scoring. And they had declined in pretty much every single area from the season prior. So it's like the guys that were still out there that had play calling experience, whether that's Grizzard, whether it's someone like Jim Bob Cooter, who I personally yesterday said that I thought he was the one that was going to get hired, and I'm happy to be wrong there because I think Mannion's a better pick. But there's guys like Grizzard, Jim Bob Cooter, and also Matt Nagy. Those are the guys that you're talking about when you're talking about experienced play callers that are still out there. Or you can take a gamble on an inexperienced guy. And again, everything that we're seeing about Sean Mannion right now is extremely positive. It's a big risk because of the lack of experience, but everything else sounds really, really promising. So let me see if there's anything else that I can pull up on the screen here, and then we'll get some takes in the chat about how you guys are feeling about this. We'll read some of your guys' thoughts. Oh yeah, here's some examples of Packers fans not being too happy about the fact that, or at the thought of Mannion leaving, which now obviously has happened. So Victor Williams tweeted this out. He said, Green Bay fans aren't too thrilled about the possibility of Sean Mannion leaving. He helped develop Jordan Love, made Malik Willis look amazing. I'm officially interested. And this was, when did he tweet this out? Tweeted this out yesterday. So here's a tweet. It says, Packers probably going to lose Sean Mannion. They'll need to find another magic worker at the QB coach position. Tom Clements held it forever. Mannion was the prodigy. That's a pretty strong word, but only took 2 seasons for the rest of the league to want him. Okay. Packers quarterback coach Sean Mannion is getting a second interview today for the Eagles OC job. We have zero clue what Adam Stenovich does, and the O-line was the worst unit on the team. We at least know Mannion will develop Jordan, fire Stenovich, and promote Mannion to OC. I'm starting to get excited about when they initially announced the hire, I was in a pretty positive state of mind, but I'm starting to get even more excited about this. Tom Clements trained Sean Mannion, would absolutely hate to see him leave. I'd rather fire Stenovich and promote Mannion to OC at this point. If Adam Stenovich does leave for a job in Miami, Green Bay could look internally and consider promoting Sean Mannion to OC. The Packers have ranked second in EPA per dropback over the past 2 seasons, doing it with 3 different starting quarterbacks. Guys, I don't know. I'm starting to get pretty excited about this. I understand the lack of experience. I really, really do. And I don't want to pretend like that doesn't concern me a little bit either. But also, at this point in the offensive coordinator search, you had to take, like I said, you had to take a risk of some kind. And I feel like this it was the right choice. I mean, someone else that I would have been interested in was Tanner Engstrand. I would have been happy about that hire as well, but it didn't seem like they had any interest there. And also Frank Smith was somebody who I wouldn't have been too upset about either. But this was, I think, yesterday during my stream, I gave a top three at the end of guys that I would want, and it was Engstrand, it was Frank Smith, and it was Sean Mannion. So yeah, guys, I mean, I'm starting to like this hire more and more. Just and the more you see, like all this stuff about Packers fans being upset about him leaving and saying he should have been the offensive coordinator, and for them, and I don't know. I feel like the buzz about him is extremely positive. So I feel pretty good about that. It took a while. Obviously, you would have liked to get, ideally, you would have liked to get Mike McDaniel or Brian Dable or whoever. But I'm not at all upset about this. I'm really not. Let me see if there's anything else that I can read here about Mannion. Um, what is pairing with the coaches run? Hmm. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I appreciate all 96 of you guys for being in here. Um, Make sure you like the stream if you haven't already. So some people aren't happy about this. They're saying another yes man for Sirianni. I'm not gonna. Again, he doesn't have the experience. That is the big question mark, the big risk with this hire. Um, so is Nick gonna have more authority over him than somebody like a Mike McDaniel or a Brian Dable? Probably. At the same time, though, the reports were that Nick Sirianni had no problem giving up control, and this whoever was going to come in here was going to get pretty much full autonomy. Now, maybe that depends on who they brought in, which again, now it's this inexperienced guy. Landon says, "I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed, just whelmed." Yeah, I get that. I understand that because again, it's a risk and you don't know. Like I can sit here and say that I'm excited about this and gas it up and say that it's a good hire, but at the end of the day, I don't know because I haven't seen him call plays before. But the fact that he's risen up the ranks so quickly, I think, is a really good sign. And also, I'm sure for him to get this job, I'm sure he really impressed them with his interviews. Shadow says, we said Petula was a good offensive coordinator, and look what happened. We did do that. Number one, I think that we're going to, especially coming off a Super Bowl, we were going to try and be positive no matter what. And I think we kind of were all trying to talk ourselves into that. And maybe there's some of that going on here just because, again, the risk of him not having called plays is kind of a big deal. But at the same time, it's not like Kevin Petullo was this rising star coach that was being talked around the NFL and had, risen up the ranks extremely quick. Like Mannion's gotten to this position this is now going to be his third season coaching. Petullo, I think, has been in the league for what, like 16 years? And he just now got an offensive coordinator job because he was friends with the head coach and because he spent 4 years in Philadelphia, which again is malpractice to just give him the job just to give him the job. But I don't think that comparing him to Petula, like I get the comparison of the inexperience and the not having called plays, but Petula was not being talked about like Sean Mannion. Like Sean Mannion seems to be very well respected, very highly regarded at this current point in time. So I'm a little more excited about this hire than Petullo last year. You guys are Taco's not happy about this. This is BS. A new face to call Nick's crappy playbook. Dude, I'm telling you, you guys just got to give it a chance. Um, because again, at this point, I understand I tend to be more on the optimistic side when it comes to pretty much everything, and I try and talk myself into everything. And then, if things start to go bad, then I'm much more critical. And like if they hired Matt Nagy, I wouldn't have been happy. If they hired Josh Grizzard, I wouldn't have been happy. If they hired Gerard Johnson, I wouldn't have been happy. And I said that in the video that I was going to put out. Um, but I do think there's a lot more reasons to be excited about Sean Mannion than there would be about any other of those guys. Like I do think there are reasons to think that this is a positive hire. I don't know. I'm excited to see it. I'm not going to say that it's 100% going to work out because, again, you don't know. But I think that there's a solid chance that it works out because everyone seems to be extremely high on this guy. He seems to be, rising up the ranks quick. And something else that I saw yesterday that I want to see if I can find this, but I'm pretty sure I want to look up Kellen Moore's coaching experience because I'm pretty sure he was only a coach for 2 years before he became an offensive coordinator. Transitioned into coaching in 2018. Yeah, he was only a quarterback coach, or no, not a quarterback coach. He was only a coaching for 1 year before he became an offensive coordinator, and obviously that worked out for him. Now, we didn't hire him straight off of that one season, but obviously it worked out pretty well for Kellen Moore. He's now a head coach. He won a Super Bowl with us. He was a good offensive coordinator in Dallas. So, let's see here. Philly made Qantas. From what I've heard from Packers fans, they did not want him to leave. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we already went over that. But I think that's a really good sign. I'm definitely intrigued by this. I'm intrigued by it. I'm excited. Again, I can't say for sure that it's going to work out, but there's good reason to think that it will. What are some of the news? I'm missing some stuff, guys. I'm like way behind in the chat. My fault. You're saying full autonomy was only for big name OCs. Okay, so maybe that's another concern. If Nick does try and control, like if Nick is still hovering over Mannion and trying to control what he's doing, like if they let Mannion just do what he wants to do, then that's what I would prefer. Obviously, we don't want Sirianni meddling in the offense. I think at this point we're all on the same page with that. Is this a good or bad hire? Breeze asks. Again, like I said, I think it's one of the best hires you could have made at this point in the coaching search, just with most of the top candidates already being gone. And the big drawback is he doesn't have the experience, but also he's very highly regarded. And people seem to think that he's got a super bright future and he's a great mind. So I think and Packers fans didn't want him to leave. So I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about this hire, even if it is a big risk because of the lack of experience. Skeptic says, I don't think that Howie will let Nick run this offense again. I think he'll bring so much more wrinkles than people think. I hope you're right. And I'm tending to lean that direction as well, just because it's now twice that Nick has hired a buddy or internally promoted somebody that wasn't necessarily qualified for the job and Nick had his hand in the offense, and it's just been a disaster. So I just don't think they can let that happen again. Well, so we'll see how much autonomy he gets in the offense, but I think it'll be more than maybe some of us think. The fact that Packers fans are this upset does sound more promising, though. 100%, Samir. Michael says, I'm willing to give Sean Mannion a chance. Exactly. I think we just need to see how it plays out before we jump to any crazy conclusions because again, it's a risk, but there's also a lot of positives and reasons to be excited. Skeptic says he definitely was the best hire from the options from what the favorites were recently. I mean, yeah, that's again, like you're talking about who are the remaining candidates, or talk about the four guys that got second interviews. It was Jim Bob Cooter, it was Sean Mannion, it was Josh Grizzard, and it was Gerard Johnson. So if I have to pick one of those guys, I'm picking Sean Mannion. So I'm not mad at this hire at all. Um Philly fan 1652 says, I love the move. Watched Mannion's career as a journeyman, was a quarterback under Jeff Fisher, Sean McVay, Mike Zimmer, Kevin O'Connell, and Mike McDonald. A lot of different types of offenses. Yeah. And again, there's even more names than that that I went over earlier. Like he's worked under a lot of the best offensive minds in the league. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about this hire. Does Jalen have a relationship with this new OC? Not that I have heard. I don't think so. Um, it is unfortunate. Like, hopefully, this gives us some stability. That's another one of the risks, I guess, is since he's young and since he's rising so quickly. If he comes in here and succeeds immediately, you know, is that like is he just gone after 1 year? Are we having another Kellen Moore situation? I hope not. I hope we can at least have like I feel like my standard is so low. I just want him to be here for at least 2 years, which I think that's possible. But if I think inevitably if they have success, he'll get head coaching interest. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see. Did Nick Sirianni hire Sean Mannion? I mean, I'm sure they were saying that Nick was obviously a huge part of the search, leading the search, so I'm going to assume yes. Okay. Jose says if Mannion had full control in Green Bay, well, it helped J Love's games and offensively. Green Bay had a better season than the Birds. I'm hopeful. Yeah, he didn't have full control in Green Bay. He was just the quarterback's coach. But again, there's a lot of reasons to be excited. People seem to think that he's one of the bright, young, rising offensive minds around the league. So again, and he did a good job as the quarterback's coach this past season. So was Nick friends with Sean? I don't think so. I haven't seen anything about that. I don't they definitely haven't no, they haven't worked together in the past because Mannion was playing up until 2 years ago. So no, I don't think so. I don't think there's any sort of connection there. Let's see if there's anything else, and then we'll probably just wrap up the stream. Again, I appreciate all you guys being in here. 83 people. Make sure you hit the like button. But again, like I said, definitely a risk. But at the end of the day, like out of the guys that were left, I think this is probably a pretty good hire, and there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about it. Let's see here. Wow, people are mad. All right, here's a tweet from Garrett. Garrett's pissed. Let's pull this up. Garrett says, hello, my name is Sean Mannion. I'm a failed NFL quarterback of 5 years, started coaching last year and never called plays. I'm now calling offensive plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, when you put it like that, it sounds terrible. But also, like I said, there's it's a lot more complicated than that. I mean, at this point, he was probably the best option left, like Trey right here is saying. He says best option out of the people they interviewed. You can't be mad at this. I don't know, guys. I mean, I'm optimistic about it. I'm not saying this is my favorite hire. I obviously wish we would have gotten somebody like Mike McDaniel or one of the bigger names earlier, but the guys that were left, I don't think this is a bad hire at all. I'm intrigued. I'll say that. I'm intrigued by it. And again, Packers fans are not happy. Hmm. Let's see here. Anything else? Victor Williams says Mannion played under several of today's top coaches, like I said, during his journeyman career, including Sean McVay, Kevin Stefanski, Kevin O'Connell, and Clint Kubiak. Adopting elements of those offenses could help unlock Jalen Hurts and position the Eagles for another championship run. So, again, I mean, there's a lot of things to like about it. It's just, can he call plays? And that is a big, huge if. We don't know. But everyone seems to be happy about this hire. This is a rebuild year. Miss Avalon. No, this is not a rebuild year. Maybe it's a retool year if you lose certain guys like AJ Brown, Lane Johnson, but this is not a rebuild year. I think we're still contending or trying to contend. Give him a chance. Yes, I agree with that. You're saying retooling. What else do we got here? Rigor Mortis says the last time we hired an assistant coach from Green Bay, it worked out okay. Not the same situation, but willing to give it a shot. Yeah, I mean, you go back to Andy Reid. So, yeah, guys. I mean, I'm not mad at this hire at all. I think this is a solid choice. Samir says I want to know how Tom Grassi feels about this. I'll be curious to see if I don't check in on, I don't watch Tom's videos as much as I used to, but I'll be interested to see if he has anything to say about it as well. Peachy says, welcome to Philly, Sean. Sadwan says, Mannion moment. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate all you being in here. I think I'm going to end off the stream there. But again, like I said, overall, I'm excited about this hire. Again, there's a big risk with him having never called plays before and his lack of coaching experience, but there's a lot of positives. Green Bay fans and media members in Green Bay seem to think that he's, one of the bright, young offensive minds in the game, and he's rising up the coaching ranks quickly. Very well respected. And he's worked under some great offensive minds before. So, I think that there's a good chance that he pans out and he ends up being a really good offensive coordinator. It's just, can he call plays? So we're going to find out. But with that being said, I really do appreciate all you guys for being in here. And make sure you like the stream. Make sure you subscribe. And also be on the lookout for a video. I'm probably going to just edit the one I already have a little bit and then post that. So it might be a little bit of a weird video, but I do appreciate you guys for being in here and just supporting. So yeah, with all that being said, I'll see you probably in an hour or two in the next video. So be on the lookout for that. Peace.